these and any other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call to determine the quorum. Ms. Goldman.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mr. Law?
Here.
Mayor, all present but Mr. Nason.
Thank you, Ms. Goldman, and may the record reflect the roll call. I want to welcome you here today and express my appreciation to each of you. We are not being broadcast live tonight because there's a problem with the feed. I've spoken with Suddenlink about it, and we should be back up and going for the April meeting. Announcements. I don't really have a lot of announcements. We have been so extremely busy with preparing for the State of the City address, which we had on Tuesday, as you well know, and I had planned to go through the accomplishments in this meeting for the sake of the public who was not able to attend that meeting on Tuesday, but I'll wait and do that for our April meeting so that the general public could have a benefit of knowing all of our accomplishments that were noted that particular day. Also, I'm going to ask the press if they would reprint the letter to the citizens that's listed in our book, and I'll get some more information to you just as a letter to the editor to benefit the general public as a whole. Thank you so much. Do we have any announcements from the council members that you wish to make? Item number 4, public comments as they relate to items on the agenda. Okay. Item number 5, and by the way, this meeting, we don't expect it to last very long because we really have done so much work in just getting the public informed, so we expect this meeting is going to end early, one of our shorter meetings. Item number 5, approved minutes, regular meeting February 9, 2012. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, Mayor.
Properly moved by Mr. Moore.
Second.
Second by Mr. Locke. Are there any questions? Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, Finance Committee Report Resolution 121431, Bills and Claims for the month of February 2012. Mr. Locke.
May I move for the acceptance of Resolution 121431, bills and claims for the month of February 2012.
Properly moved
I second.
and second. Are there any questions? Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, Resolution 12-1433, declaring property known as Ditto Building located at 615 Canal Street, Bastrop, Louisiana, no longer needed for public use, authorizing the sale of the property by obtaining sealed bids, authorizing the employment of Philip Lester, attorney at law, to provide the legal services for the sale of property for the minimum bid of the appraised amount, cost of appraisal, and legal services in accordance with the law. Ms. King and Mr. Lawrence. Ms. King, you want to come and speak to us? I know you've been working on it and appreciate that nicely bound appraisal book that you got.
Well, thank you, and always happy to be your mayor and board of all. I'm pleased that we did get the appraisal back pretty quickly. Sherry Combs in Raymond, looked at appraisal, did the appraisal for us. And we often have to go out of town for things like commercial appraisals. We try to use local appraisals whenever possible, but we do not have a local commercial appraised value of $363,000 on that building. And I'd like to just make some comments that appraisals on this type of buildings are very difficult because it's hard to measure the obsolescence of floor thicknesses, ceiling heights, and layout. If the building were in perfect condition, it's unlikely that we could find another industry that could just come into the building without any kind of major renovation. So, and I know that when I first began to look at the Ditto building back in 2005, when the city got it, that I checked many places that had sewing plants. And in most of these places, sewing plants were sitting empty because just the functional design of those buildings and the lack of sewing facilities in the United States. So I'd like to say that I think it's unlikely that we will receive on this bid the minimum bid for this building. And I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I would say let's keep in mind the other benefits that we can consider on this: improving the community, job creation, increased tax base savings, in maintenance and insurance costs. And I think if we can quantify that in economic terms, then I'd like to work with Ms. Dolan and Mr. Lawrence over the next few days and see when we put together the bid package, if we can build some incentives into this package, and also look at creative uses from community development standpoint and some things that we might consider. And I will need Mr. Lawrence's expertise in this to make sure that we stay within the law. If there are laws that allow for communities to advertise buildings and put buildings back into use for the economic benefit of the community. And so I'd like to see if we can take advantage of those laws as much as possible. And I think one thing that we need to say is that everything that's done here will be open and advertised, and that this will be fair, and that people will have a fair opportunity to comment on whatever proposals that we get. I have had some inquiries on this building since we began this process. When we started, it looked like, no one was really interested, but once you start talking about things, sometimes you do get inquiries. So I do expect that we may get at least one bid on the building. So I think it's unfortunate that sometimes the public makes these comments that it's unfortunate that public buildings must deteriorate down to where they're in really bad shape before we get rid of them. But I just wanted to point out that this building was in bad shape when the city of Bastrop got it. That we already had holes in the ceilings, and but we've had some vandalism and some things, and the appraisal is on file in the city clerk has it. So if any of the aldermen would like to look at the pictures, you can kind of look through these pictures and see the condition of the building. And hopefully we can put all this into this good bid package and develop something that I think will benefit the community and the technical college and the city. And just remind you that from some previous information that we had, that if revitalized, this building might produce anywhere from $12,000 to $18,000 of taxes a year for the city, and from $19,000 to $29,000 worth of taxes for the parish, and that would include all of the villages bundled into that parish amount. So food board, hospitals, mosquito tax, everything that's bundled into that. So I do appreciate the city being interested, and we've talked on this many times, and I think we all agree that this is important, and I hope we can be successful. But worst case scenario, we have a price on this building now, and we can post that on the internet and see what happens.
Okay.
Ms. King,
Yes.
you said that we have already received a bid.
No, sir. I said I've received some inquiries.
Inquiries.
Since I began to talk about this. when
it's
might
just
it,
inquiry,
yeah, inquiries as to when the bid packages might come out.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes, sir.
as a city, are we obligated to accept a bid far below the appraised value of the building?
There was a recent change in the law. There's been some recent changes within the past 2 or 3 years. And in part because of, there was a project in Monroe I was working on where we got an appraisal done. It was on the Georgia Tucker School. And nobody would buy it. And so there's been some recent legislation that says when you go through a process and you can't get minimum bid, there are some alternate methods that will allow you to consider lower bids. Now, there's actually a collection of laws that deal with it, and I would want to look at that collection of laws more closely, because the one that I'm familiar with is the one that deals with school boards selling excess property. And I know for a fact that there are some now that also deal with municipalities. And so this is a common problem. And as Ms. King indicated, it's very hard to value commercial property that's abandoned because, quite frankly, the real appraised value of commercial property is what somebody is willing to pay for it. And if nobody is willing to pay what you say that the appraisal is, that means you could be in a situation where the appraisal folks are saying, look, we know that it has this minimum value because of X, Y, Z, but nobody wants to buy it because they don't have the money. So there are some pathways to it.
I'm concerned if someone is coming in to bid, I think you said the appraised value was,
$363,000.
somebody will come in and bid $50,000, are we obligated to accept that bid? I think that's.
No, there are some things that we can do to protect the city against that kind of low ball figure, because you'll get somebody that'll do that, and then they'll get it and won't do anything with it. And that's the other opposite effect that you want to be on guard about. So
Yeah, and I believe that we should have some covenants written in
Right.
this that
Some
people
incentive.
would do something with it, and that we put some kind of value, that we could analyze the value of the improvements, the amount of work that's gonna be generated by the repairs and things, but I think that there should be a covenant that if they have a certain length of time to make those improvements, or, we can do that.
only commentary I would make about the covenants, I think that's a good idea. But it's like I was telling another client, what is the recourse if the covenants are not met? The answer to that is you're saying you're gonna take the property back and give them their money back. I guess that's one thing. So you have to balance that against, do we wanna go ahead and get rid of this? Versus do you wanna make whoever's gonna get it really do something with it? And I think we can work through this.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence, are there any other points that you feel necessary to hit on this particular item?
I would like to see, among other things, the legal fees be made a part of the cost that's paid by the seller, if it's at all possible for us to be able to do that. I also think that we do need to look at some of the issues that many of you have raised about it being a low-ball bid and about the pathway that we take if we sell below appraisal. And that's something there that we can work through. But I know with some of the old industrial park properties that we used to sell, we got to a point where we wanted to make those legal fees part of the sale price if we could. So that's a strategy I'd like to see here as well.
Okay. Ms. King, appreciate your hard work in getting an assessment on this building. We realize that the west side of town desperately needs some attention, and just getting to this step gives me hope that things are going to change on the west end of town. And there's other interest that's being expressed on that particular end of town, and I see that the North Point building there's some activity going on there. And sometimes all it takes is just one person to start stimulating something. And come on back, Ms. King.
R&S Supply
Yes.
has purchased the Ford building, and as I understand it, they had their stuff kind of scattered around, and they're a pretty large company. They have an office in Shreveport, Bossier area, and I think that we're just very fortunate that they found the building and that they're going to stay in our parish. So, and I think that's really going to enhance the west side. So I'm excited that there's somebody in that building. I've talked with people like the district manager of Tractor Supply Company. He came in the office one day and he said, is there anything that we can do about people coming in the Bastrop from the road? And I said, well, we've got a couple of closed car dealerships out here, and there's closed car dealerships all over the United States right now. But I think it's going to be real close to the west side. And the hydrovac building has also come up for sale. And the story on the hydrovac is, I think the gentleman that owned that company passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's for sale, and I know it's been closed for about a year, and so we hopefully we can get a new business in that building.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. King has a tedious job. A lot of research is required, and sometimes in the research she may discover something is not feasible. Then she has to deliver the bad news. But I do understand and appreciate the tedious aspect of your job, Ms. King, and I think that's a sentiment that's shared by this council. Mr. Lawrence, was it anything else?
I think we're good.
We're good? Okay. We will proceed under this guidance.
We have voted.
That is so true.
I had to confirm with the same.
Council members, that doesn't mean I took y'all for granted. At this time, I will entertain a motion on resolution 12-1434. No, I'm sorry, let's go back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Resolution 12-1433, declaring the property known as Ditto Building. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make that motion, man.
Properly moved by Mr. Armstrong
Second.
and second by Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, Resolution 12-1434, authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement with Icon Financial Services to lease one Ricoh MPC 3501 color copier for the Public Works Department. Mr. McKee.
We probably have in Public Works, we probably have the second highest volume of copies in the city. And the copy machine we have now, we were down approximately 2.5 weeks waiting on the foil because they don't, waiting on the final foil because they don't make this particular machine anymore. So we're asking information to lease the machine from the same company that we're presently from now, just an upgrade to upgrade the machine.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Mr. McKee?
This copier is on state contract, just so we don't get it.
Okay.
It's gonna be a pure lease, no lease to own, it's pure lease.
At this time, I will entertain a motion on Resolution 12-1434.
I'll make a motion, man.
Properly moved by Mr. Moore and second by Mr. Locke. Are there any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 9, ordinance 12-4207, an ordinance of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Bastrop, Louisiana to enact section 8-200 of the regulatory ordinances forming the criminal code of the city of Bastrop to prohibit the transmission of any electronic, textual, visual, written, or oral communication with the malicious and willful intent to coerce, abuse, torment, or intimidate a person under the age of 18, to repeal all other sections of the code of ordinance that are inconsistent with said prohibition and otherwise providing with respect thereto. Chief Black, you want to speak to that, and Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I know that one of the intent behind bringing forth this ordinance was to have the city code of ordinance provisions to match state law, and this, the text of this ordinance matches state law, and the effect of it is this court, the city court of Bastrop, will now, if you enact this, have jurisdiction over criminal complaints that are made by folks within the city who are victimized by cyberbullying and other types of activities. And if you specifically note, this is aimed at protecting people under the age of 18. So it's hard for us older folks to imagine how you can use a cell phone or other device to control somebody. But it's done. And so this is a tool that matches state law that gives our court jurisdiction to deal with it and to impose penalties and fines for it. And with respect to all other matters, I'll defer to the chief.
Okay, before you speak, Chief, what is done in the case of somebody over age 18 if that kind of activity is going on? If someone is harassing, does it go under another name or something?
If it's by telephone, of course, you have harassing phone call statute. If there's a threat communicated, it could be assault.
Okay.
So you have really probably a selection of other laws that do cover some of those activities, but I think that this is more expansive. It covers more things when these things are aimed at people under 18. So
Okay.
it's possible to do it, some of these things to folks over 18, and it's not a crime, but
Okay.
people under 18, it is.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Chief Black?
I think Mr. Lawrence covered pretty much everything there is to cover. It's not that we couldn't enforce the law, we could still enforce the law, we just have to send it to the district court, if I'm not mistaken. This way, when we make an arrest or charge someone with this crime, the city judge will hear it here in city court.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any questions for Mr. Lawrence or for the chief? Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion on ordinance 12-4207.
So moved.
Properly moved by, is that you? By Mr. Johnson?
Second.
And second by Mr. Armstrong. Are there any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And Mayor, just in connection with that, there's a note down at the bottom of the agenda about public hearing. We make note on the record that no one appeared for the purpose of having any comment that we know of during the public hearing period regarding this order. I know that when I stuck my head in as I was coming in, Mr. Floyd at one point was the only person in the room. I didn't know that there was anybody else was appearing for a public hearing, so let's just note that that's been satisfied as well.
Okay. Ms. Goldman, you make sure that the record reflects that information. Well, that concludes the agenda for tonight. I promised you you'd get to go home early. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Properly moved by Mr. Armstrong
Second.
and second by Mr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.